unit, Algebra 2 Q1, we're doing function transformation rules. I know a lot of you do not rely on notes whenever we are doing these problems, and whenever the test comes around, you guys forget things. I'm not talking about everybody, but I'm talking about a lot of you, okay? So I strongly suggest, if you did not get the notes for these because you opted out of them, either ask me for them and keep up with them for the test, or copy these charts down, because I promise it will help you. Okay, so we are talking about transformations of graphs. If we are given f of x that is any kind of graph whatsoever, and in Algebra 2 we're only going to be talking about a few types of graphs throughout the year. But if you are given an equation of a graph, and then you said you want to shift it. You want to shift it to the right, to the left. You want to take it up. You want to take it down. Well, something's going to happen to that equation to be able to get you to where you want to go. And this is what happens. Whenever I am teaching these, or whenever I taught these in person, I'd always ask the kids and everything, when you are living with your parents, and not talking about everybody, but, think about yourself as a teenager. If they say, take out the trash, do you take out the trash? Most of y'all don't, or you will later on, right? You just don't want to do what the parent says to do. If they say, be home at 9, okay, you want to be home at 9:30 or 10, right? So you just don't think that the parents know what's best for you, is my translation of what these rules are, okay? So see the parentheses and see the H, okay? The H is how much it's going to go left or right. If the H, or the number, is inside the parentheses, then it is with the parent. And if it's with the parent, then you are going to do the opposite of what the parent says. Okay? One more thing. If it's with the parent, if it's inside the parentheses, it's always either going to go left or it's always going to go right. All right? So if I told you to go left on a graph, you're thinking positive, right? I'm sorry. If you're going to go left, you're thinking you're going to go negative. Well, look here. With a left shift, the number is going to be positive, or the opposite of whatever the parent says. If you're going to shift right, then this number is going to be negative. Okay, so then you've graduated, you go on, you get a job, and you move out. Okay, you're not with the parent anymore, you are on your own, and finally you decide, I better do what I'm supposed to do, or, the bills won't get paid. So whenever the number is not inside the parentheses, it's out to the outside, this is always going to be an up or down, but up is always positive and down is always negative. Okay, I know I took 4.5 minutes to be able to tell you this, but now that we went over it, it's going to go really, really fast. All right, so we look at this right here. See, all of these are f of x's. Those are the original equations. And let's say that we put a +3 inside the parentheses. So a +3, I'm like, okay, what happens? Well, here's the parentheses. The 3's on the inside, and it's positive. So what's going to happen? We're going to go left. So it's going to be shifted to the left 3. This -1 is inside the parentheses. Okay? If it's inside the parentheses, then it's with the parent. So we know it's going to be left or right. We normally would think, okay, -1, so we're going to go left. Well, guess what? We're going to do the opposite, and we are going to go right 1. This plus 10 is not with the f of x. It's not in the inside. It's not in the parentheses. So it has graduated. It's going to do what it's going to do, and it's always going to be an up or down. Since it's a plus 10, we're going to go up 10. And on this one, it's going to do 2 things. The plus 6 is on the inside. A plus 6 usually would say, oh, I'm going to go to the right. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to the left. 6. But I am going to go down 4. Okay? See, I told you it's going to go really, really fast. And now we're going to slow down for just a little bit also. Alright, so we have, here's f of x again, f of x, and so on and so on. If the whole equation, every stinking part of the equation is multiplied by a number, and that number is bigger than 1, then we're going to stretch vertically. If every single number in the original equation is multiplied by a number, but that number is between 0 and 1, well, you're like, what is between 0 and 1? Well, 1/2, 3/4, 5/7. All of those numbers are between 0 and 1. Why are they between 0 and 1? Because the top number is smaller than the bottom number. If that happens, then we are going to shrink vertically. Okay? Now, if just the x part is multiplied, not every single thing in the equation, but just the x part, and what we're multiplying by is greater than 1, we're going to shrink horizontally. If we multiply just the x part by the number, not every single number that's in the equation, but that number is again between 0 and 1, we're going to stretch horizontally. If every single number is made opposite because of the negative, we're going to reflect about the x. If just the x part is made opposite, we're going to reflect about the y. I am going to admit to you, I struggled with this. I still struggle with it because this is pretty much the only time that we see it is in Q1. But you do learn it again in college algebra. We must learn it. But again, for my class, remember, you can always use your notes. And I use my notes on these for every single problem. Okay, so we have our original equation. And what happens? Every single thing is negated or made opposite. What happens when that is done? We reflect x. Okay? Let me clear all this up now. Alright, so we see this 1 over 6, x. Is 1 over 6 bigger than 1, or is 1 over 6 between 0 and 1? It's between 0 and 1, okay? So it's either going to be this one or it's going to be this one. Is the 1 over 6 with just the x, or is the 1 over 6 to the outside, which means everything's going to be multiplied by 1 over 6? It's just with the x. Well, which one of these is just with the x? This one. So we're going to stretch horizontally. Let's see if I can shrink it. There we go. Alright. This 4. 4 is on the outside of the X. Which ones are on the outside of the X? The F, I'm sorry. The F, those two. So we have to determine, is 4 bigger than 1 or is 4 between 1 and 0? And it's bigger than 1. So we are going to stretch vertical. Same thing, but 1 over 2 is between 0 and 1. So we're going to shrink vertical. The 2 is on the inside with X, and 2 is bigger than 1. So what happens? We're going to shrink horizontal. And the negative is just with the X. So the negative is just with the X, so we're going to reflect Y. I think that's it. Yep. Let me know if you need any help.